This is the story of Natasha, the woman who was not ready for marriage. I met Timothy on a scorching afternoon in Lagos. He sat alone at a small cafe, his shoulders hunched, his fingers tracing circles on the table absent-mindedly. His face, once full of confidence and charm, was now tired, worn and distant. It had been years since we last saw each other, but I recognized that look in his eyes. It was the look of a man who had lost everything. I took a seat across from him, and after a few moments of silence, he sighed. Anthony, if I tell you what happened to me, you won't believe. And so, he told me his story. Natasha had everything a woman could dream of: beauty, power, and access to Lagos's high society. At 34, she owned one of the biggest nightclubs in Lagos, a hotspot for the wealthy, the ambitious, and the reckless. She wasn't just another socialite, she was the socialite. Her three closest friends, Gina, Janelle, and Zina, were sisters in luxury. They lived extravagantly, flying first class to Dubai and Paris, buying designer bags like they were groceries, and throwing lavish parties where champagne flowed like water. Gina was the smartest when it comes to securing wealth. She found herself a billionaire politician, Ken, and married him in a dreamy Parisian wedding. From that moment on, she lived on private jets, hopping from one vacation spot to another. Janelle had made the unusual choice. She married Kunle, an average but hardworking man who wasn't rich but loved her deeply. Despite the teasing from Natasha and Gina, Janelle glowed with happiness. Zina, well, she was just there for the ride, enjoying the benefits of wealthy friendships. But Natasha wanted more. She wanted wealth, power, and a man who could fund her desires. Then she met Timothy. Timothy was the kind of man any woman would want. Tall, dark, handsome, and rich. He owned one of the biggest shopping malls in Lagos and had no shortage of admirers. But unlike the men Natasha usually entertained, he wasn't reckless with money. The first time they met, Natasha bumped into him at her club. She had been expecting another entitled rich man who thought he could buy her attention, but Timothy was different. He was captivated. The moment his eyes met hers, something shifted in him. He wanted her not for just a night, but forever. Timothy showed up the next day with an expensive designer gift and asked her out. Natasha, seeing an opportunity, accepted, thinking, here is another man who will spoil me. But on their first date, Timothy realized the truth. She wasn't just the club star's attraction, she was the owner. That moment made him admire her more. For Natasha, however, the only thing that mattered was his wealth. Timothy showered Natasha with everything her heart desired: gifts, vacation, diamonds, and luxury. When he finally proposed, she said yes, not out of love, but out of expectation. Their wedding was spectacle, the kind of wedding that had all of Lagos talking. It was grand, glamorous, and extravagant. It was the life Natasha had always wanted. But marriage was not what she had imagined. Natasha was a lazy type of girl. She didn't want to cook, she didn't want to manage the home, she didn't want responsibility. She only loved to flex. Timothy tried to introduce financial planning, but she dismissed it with a laugh. I told you from the first day, I was never meant to suffer. She wasn't joking. 8 months later, something terrible happened. Timothy's world collapsed. One night, a fire broke out at his mall. By the time the flames were put out, most of the businesses were gone. Residents looted whatever was left. Insurance wouldn't cover everything, and overnight, Timothy was no longer a rich man. For Natasha, this was unacceptable. She didn't comfort him, she didn't support him, she continued living as if nothing had happened. One night, she came back from her club and saw Timothy sitting in the dark, thinking of a way to rebuild. She snapped, "You are lazy and foolish. You disgust me. I never signed up for this. I never knew marriage meant suffering." Timothy stared at her, his heart breaking. He tried to calm her down. He promised her things would get better, but she wasn't interested in promises. She wanted a rich husband, not a struggling man. The next morning, she filed for divorce. Timothy lost everything: his business, his home, and his wife. She lied to his parents, saying, "We are fine," every time they called. But when his elder sister visited, he finally told the truth. She encouraged him to go home. But before he did, he met Anthony. Hearing his story, Anthony could not let his old friend suffer. Anthony connected him to a business deal in Canada, and within months, he rebuilt himself. He left Nigeria, determined never to look back. Meanwhile, Natasha married Chief Marcus, a billionaire old enough to be her father. She thought she had secured her future. For the first 6 months, every day was like Christmas: diamonds, vacation, mansion, and unlimited spending. Then she discovered the truth. Chief Marcus was impotent. When she tried to leave, he laughed in her face. "If you leave, I will end you. No matter where you run, I will find you." For the first time in her life, Natasha was truly afraid. She called Gina, expecting help. Gina simply said, "Sorry, dear." She called Janelle, hoping for comfort, but Janelle reminded her, "You made your choice. Live with it, my dear friend." Suddenly, everyone she had once laughed with, traveled with, and celebrated with had disappeared. No one was there. She felt empty. She searched for Timothy, hoping to apologize, but he was long gone. Timothy found love again, and this time he made the right choice. He married Nyla from Canada, and they had beautiful children and lived happily ever after. Marriage is not about money, but about commitment. A materialistic mindset can lead to regret and loneliness. True love survives hardship. Superficial love vanishes in tough times. Humble beginnings can lead to lasting happiness, while wealth without love leads to emptiness. Thank you for watching.